Hello everyone. We continue to talk about Model 4 and we were talking about introduction to ethical living, professional integrity, and we talked about corruption and we talked about conflict of interest, COI. We talked about workplace responsibility. So now when we talked about all of these things, we did see that corruption is something which is an unhealthy behavior. Unhealthy why? Because it does not go well where we want to work with dedication, where we want to succeed, where we want to succeed as an individual, where we want to succeed as a team. So when we work for an organization, everything becomes a group activity, and every stride or every growth that we have is for the group. It is not individualistic. So when we talk about corruption as a factor influencing our work life balance, it does not really go well, because we have our conscience which keeps pricking and prodding and poking us, but then sometimes we just happen to ignore it. So then we are mindfully ignoring it, which can get us into trouble. Then we talked about conflict of interest where our workplace is associated, so many responsibilities that come attached to what we are doing, and that conflict of interest is an unhealthy thing. Because why? There are so many people who are working under us, who are working with us. It is like an experiential living. When it is like an experiential living, people look at you and they epitomize you. So when you are like a benchmark, then we cannot indulge ourselves in conflict of interest in any which way. Even if we are not a benchmark for somebody, it is the conscience that we have to satisfy. It is the mental well-being of ourselves which we have to satisfy, and we need to remain in harmony and balance. So a person which is carrying any kind of burden, a burden like corruption or burden like conflict at workplace, because conflict at workplace is like stealing. So when we steal anything, it remains heavy in our mind, it remains heavy on our heart, and it does not go away easily. It takes a lot of time. Why? Because we live in that fear that, someday we might get caught. Or what when it happens that people know of it? What then? So we need to bear in mind the consequences of it all. We cannot just indulge ourselves into anything and everything. It will not be ethically correct. It will not be morally correct. Then we have workplace responsibility. So all of it goes together. It's like a tricycle with three wheels. Yeah. So work responsibility is basically if you are not corrupt and if you work within the area that we are not into an indulging into a conflict of interest, you work very peacefully, you work more productively. See, all your energy is positively driven. When you do negative things, then your energy is consumed more by negative thinking, more by negative work, and so that brings down your productivity very badly, which can reflect on your key responsibility area, which can reflect on the trust that you have, which can reflect on the team performance if you have a team, or even if you're solo running a company, it will bring down the input of your team or the output of your team very drastically. So we have to be really mindful of everything, of how we conduct ourselves, how we conduct our work, how we conduct the place, the chair that we are sitting in, how we execute the duties which have been entrusted upon us, how we don't have any kind of bias for any person working around us who's related to us. We do not divulge information, we don't share work ethics. So there are a lot of parameters, but if you do it one step at a time, or you are mindfully making decisions, mindfully attempting things, then it is not very difficult. It is basically a very easy way to live, a much lighter way to live. So now we are going to talk about professional codes of conduct. We need professional codes of conduct because every organization thinks about prosperity. Every organization thinks about their benefit, the benefit of their employees, monetary benefit, reputational benefit, because more than monetary benefit, reputational benefit is what makes a difference for us also. Just like trust, Once it is broken, and even when we lose our reputation once, it is very difficult to build back. It is very difficult to make the other person trust in you, to believe in your worthiness. So your worth is very, very important. I'm sure we understand that when we start to work. When we start to work, and if we are doing it the correct way, then things are not so difficult. Every progress doesn't happen overnight. Progress takes time, and progress has a correct path to it. So, no shortcuts happen in professional life. If we have shortcuts in professional life, then they hamper us in the long term. So, let's see how professional codes of conduct make a difference. Professional codes of conduct are formal documents that outline the ethical standards, principles, and behavioral expectations for individuals within a particular profession or organization. Now, when we have a professional code of conduct, which is normally got signed from you when you are entering into a job, when you are entering into an agreement, it is there to protect the standards and the principles of the particular company, also to make you realize that you also can elevate your standards, you also can elevate your principles by working according to the code of conduct, which is perfectly well. It is basically a very learning, experiential learning. We have behavioral expectations. Now, organizations where there are large number of employees and there are women employees who work in tandem with the males, so behavioral expectations also play a massive, massive role. We may have heard of POSH, which is sexual harassment at workplace. Now there is an act which encompasses it all, and there are small, mindful, unmindful things that we certain times indulge in. Sometimes, like just passing a sultry remark, which may not mean all that much, but yes, if it is taken to heart or if it is reported, it becomes a behavioral issue. So we have to abstain from all such small, big things which we may be tempted to, or which the environment may force us to do. So we need to actually think on how to curtail on it. Now, the code of conduct serve as a guide for how professionals should act, make decisions, and interact with colleagues, with clients, and the public. Now, when we act and make decisions with a colleague, it is experiential learning for them and for us. If we do not behave well, we cannot even expect good behavior from the other end. So, it is a give and take. It is a give and take of respect. It is a give and take of trust. Once broken, we cannot achieve it back. The clients, like we talked about money frauds, we talked about embezzlements, we talked about biases. So, all these are related to client network. And when we have this client network, we can do so many things which are ethically correct, which are morally correct. We have the public dealing offices where there's so much of licensing which happens. So we need to be correct with our public dealing as well. There are so many things which cannot be formulated. There are so many things that which cannot step out of line. So we need to be very careful. We talk about a larger circle in life. We talk about ourselves, and we talk about everything that is associated around us. So the professional code of conduct is very important for our organization, for its employees to thrive, for the people working in it to thrive, for the people who are associated with it to thrive, the people who are beneficiaries of the company to thrive. The key aspects of professional code of conduct. Let's see quickly what are the key aspects of professional code of conduct. Now it is the foundation in ethical principles. Now it is a basic framework on which the ethical principles are loaded with. We have already talked about, we have already discussed that everything works around a system, everything works around a particular framework. So all these things make a difference. We have the ethical principle to follow so that everything falls into line. The place where we are working is justifiable. Then we have standards of behavior. how we have to behave, how we have to present ourselves make a large difference. So when we take a look at ourselves, we certain times, certain people image us or people imitate us also, whether it is for the good, whether it is for the bad. So we have to be very, very mindful of how we behave with colleagues, what our physical gestures are, what our visual gestures are. So we have to be mindful. Organizational values are very, very important for an organization, for an individual to survive. So all these things in an organization, if followed very correctly, if followed to the brink, are very useful. And if any of these three points, if any of these is unavailable or is missing in action, then it becomes difficult. Just like we said, that if it is a tricycle, any wheel which is missing or any wheel which is not working, the tricycle cannot work well. So all of these three, that foundation and ethical principle, standards of behavior, organizational values, all are very, very important for codes of conduct. Now, the code of conduct is different for every organization, it is different for every sector, but yet it is very, very important. Now, the scope, how it is used, where it is used, it can cover a wide range of topics which are work related. It is not arbitrary. It is, though it's not a legal binding, but yes, it does give you a system which you need to follow. Now let's see what is the scope and however the codes can be included. The very first is professional code of conduct. The professional code of conduct and the standards, what are the examples of it is competence and diligence. Diligence is that whether it is truthful, whether it is justified, and competence, yes, whether it is ethically competent. There are so many frauds which keep happening. We are living in a world which is 50% fake. So it is for us to decide, it is for us to discern whether it is diligent, whether it is competent. Then we have policies on discrimination that we cannot do. We know that. Harassment, yes, we cannot indulge into harassment. There is a strong POSH Act in place now, and equal opportunities. So when we talk about equal opportunities also, we cannot have any biases. We cannot be subjected to any bias, and neither can we inflict any bias. Then we have proper use of company assets and resources. Everything that is given to us is for our benefit. It is given for our comfort. So we need to use it accordingly. We need not waste. Just because we have not paid for it, it cannot be thrown away. We can only take what we make use of, not overdo it. It is like not hoarding kind of a thing. Guidelines for communication, including social media. Now there are so many companies who have social media policies. Most of the companies use social media handles to advertise and to exhibit the products or to exhibit the company qualities or anything. So we have to be very mindful. Companies do have a social media policy. We need to keep abiding with that. What we personally do with our social media doesn't matter. But wherein the company's name is tarnished or any company rule or regulation or code of conduct is flawed, we should mindfully keep away, because all that can attract legal formalities, legal discipline from there. Handling of confidential information and data privacy. Now, there are so many companies which are into financial detailing, which are into legal detailing. So we need to be very, very careful. If we have confidential information, that confidential information is otherwise also work related. So we need not go home and share or divulge any information. Sometimes we as human beings divulge information, which sometimes we do unmindfully, we're not even thinking about it, and we randomly just share any information. Now you share that information with a, not with a bad motive, but how that person has carried it back, you don't know his intention. So you need to be mindful of what you are sharing about your work, with whom you are sharing, how much you are sharing, and what that information's repercussion of sharing would be. Conflict of interest policies. Conflict of interest is very, very broad. But conflict, the very word means that if you are working at a place, you cannot have a different area of interest. Your area of interest, your area of growth has to align with the growth of the company, has to align with the growth of the interest of the company. Reporting misconduct and disciplinary processes. So, if you have any malpractice, any small malpractice, then it has to be handled well, it has to be reported, and proper action has to be taken. Again, here it is explanatory and experiential itself. If you are unable to set right something which is very small, then the next instant you may not be able to set right something which of big magnanimity happens in your company or under you or with an employee. So every small thing, every small misconduct, or every small discipline issue has to be handled well, has to be given importance. Environmental and social responsibility. So when we are working for any place, we are working for ourselves, then the environment also is associated with us, and the social responsibility comes attached to it. Why? Because we become the face of the company, we are carrying the character of the company, and it is the reputation of the company, it is at stake. Whether we are running our own company or we are working for a company, all companies work with the help of reputation, and reputation and trust is something which is very, very important for any place to thrive, for any place to do actually well. Let's look at the importance and benefits of professional codes of conduct. They offer numerous benefits to individuals, to organizations, and to public. So we are talking about three large factors here. Let's look at what happens with individuals first. There are clear expectations, there is nothing hidden, guidance for decision. When we need to decide, we need to be very clear. We cannot be indecisive. Professionalism and reputation. We need to be thorough professions because there's sufficient amount of trust which has been laid upon us. There is sufficient amount of reputation that we are to carry, the organizations as well as ours. There is accountability. There is answerability of the organization that we are working in. Comfort and security. If we do not feel comfortable, if we do not feel secure, we cannot progress. The company cannot progress. For organizations, how does that work? Ethical culture. Every company has ethics to follow, and if they do not follow ethics, that company cannot progress. Reputation and trust, that is an ongoing topic. That reputation and trust go together. If there is no reputation, there cannot be any trust. If there is no trust, there cannot be a reputation to hold on to. There is risk mitigation. There is so much of risk factor involved. The reputation is there, the trust is there. Employee satisfaction and retention. A owner himself or solely cannot run a company. He needs people who need to help him navigate, because the owner solely does not know everything. He has to hire employees which are responsible for particular work areas. They have their expertise in their work areas. Then we have attracting talent, because if a place is not reputable, then good people do not associate with the brand. We need good people. Why? Because we need to maintain work standards. We need to maintain a reputation. Consistency and compliance. If we are not consistent, the company cannot progress. Even an individual employee working there cannot progress if the company is not consistent. How we talk about consistency? We can talk about a monetary benefit here, which is attached like a salary to us. So if the company consistently is not progressing, the salary package cannot be consistently progressing also. It will become stagnant. When it becomes stagnant, then we feel frustrated. So that cannot happen. Leadership and mission. Every company has a goal. It has a short-term goal. It has a long-term goal. So how do they navigate to achieve the mission? How comfortable are they to get to the end time? For public and clients. For public and clients, trust and confidence, transparency and protection. Trust and confidence, that people, if they do not trust a company, if they don't have confidence in that company, the products that they are offering, they not invest into that particular company. For public and clients, Trust and confidence is very important. If we do not trust a company, if we do not have confidence in the products that it is giving, how will the company succeed? Because the product is not going to sell, obviously the company cannot do well. Then we have transparency. If a company is into shares and other things, and if the company is not very transparent with how they handle their finances, will anybody want to invest in it? No. And what does a share company need? Investment. So that is just an example. Protection. Do they protect the products that we are giving? Do they protect the services that they are providing? So all these that we saw, that for individuals are separate, for organizations are separate, for public and client are separate. However, for an individual, effect of a code of conduct, and for an organization, the effect of a code of conduct overlaps at places, but yet it is different. The framework is different, the need is different, the productivity is different, and the expectancy is different. While specific contents vary by profession and organization, common elements, let's see what do they include? Statement of values, professional competence, integrity and honesty, confidentiality and privacy. They're all very simple, but yes, when we want to work on it, can become challenging sometimes. Conflict of interest, we have been talking about it at large. Respect and non-discrimination, compliance with laws and regulations, responsible use of resources, reporting misconduct. With that, we finish 4.5 and the entire module 4. I'm sure with this you have now known how corruption, how conflict of interest, how workplace responsibility comes into play when we have a professional aspect that we are handling, when we are handling a chair, when we are accountable to an organization, when the organization has to have reputation, when the organization has to have trust, because all of this works to the benefit of not only the employee but of the company as well, for the people who are the stakeholders of the company, for the people who are the beneficiaries of the company. Thank you.